Let's get to our top talker, shall we? The Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, it is officially over. After nearly 7 weeks of testimony, the jury reached a verdict late this afternoon. They ruled largely in favor of Johnny Depp in his defamation lawsuit against his ex-wife, that is, Amber Heard.
Yeah, this was one of those stories where you could almost hear gasps in the newsroom as the verdict was being read, because this is a very high bar to clear when you're suing someone for claiming defamation against a public person. The actor sued Heard over a 2018 op-ed that was published in the Washington Post describing herself as a public figure representing domestic abuse. She never mentioned Depp by name, but it was pretty clear who she was speaking about. The jury agreed with Johnny Depp that she fabricated those abuse claims. Depp was awarded $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages, although that number will be reduced, and we're going to talk more about that with Stephanie Haney, who is here now to tell us more about what this means. But I think, am I right in saying that this was kind of a shocker, because that's a tough bar to clear?
It is, Jay. It is definitely a tough bar to clear, especially when you're talking about the celebrity aspect of this. So let's talk first about the money, and then we'll talk more about what makes this so special. But Johnny Depp was asking for $50 million. He alleged 3 counts of defamation, and the jury awarded Depp $15 million from the jury. But as you said, Virginia caps punitive damages at $350,000, deciding for him on all 3 of those counts. So when you add that up, Depp ends up with $10,350,000. But we have to talk about the cost of the trial as well, because Johnny Depp spent, according to expert estimates, $5.5 million. So if you deduct those trial costs, Depp ends up with an overall gain of $4.85 million. Now, let's talk about Amber Heard's situation. She countersued Johnny Depp, alleging that his former lawyer defamed her by calling abuse allegations from her a hoax. And the jury agreed with 1 of her 3 alleged counts of defamation, so then awarding her $2 million in compensatory damages and no punitive damages. And for those that don't know, compensatory is meant to actually cover real damages sustained. Punitive is to punish someone for bad behavior. Now let's talk about Amber Heard's costs. Estimated that she spent $3.2 million. So if we recap that, Heard was hoping for $100 million. Deducting her payout to Depp and trial costs, she is losing $11.35 million when this is all said and done. So definitely the big loser here.
$11.35 million. It's a lot of money. But Steph, not every defamation case plays out like this, right? How is this, would you say, different than a typical civil lawsuit?
Well, Laura, as Jay alluded to earlier, because these are celebrities, there are different elements to prove. Now, in this defamation case, there had to be proven actual malice. And actual malice means that these statements were not only false, but they were knowingly false or made with reckless disregard for the truth. So that is a high bar to clear. And then there's also an increased standard of evidence. The new standard of evidence in a celebrity public figure case is clear and convincing evidence, which means highly likely. So not quite the criminal standard of beyond a reasonable doubt, but more than the typical standard in one of these civil lawsuits, which is preponderance of the evidence, which is about 51%. So high bars to clear all around in order to get this judgment.
Yeah, you rarely see a judgment like this in the case of a celebrity, because that standard is just so much higher. How is it possible that Amber Heard defamed Johnny Depp with abuse claims, but Johnny Depp's lawyers also defamed Amber Heard when he talked about her claims?
That's a good question, Jay. A lot of people are wondering, how can they both get a win, sort of, in this? And that's because the count that Amber Heard won on was related to a Daily Mail article. It was from April 27th, 2020, and there were very specific factual allegations made in that article by Johnny Depp's former attorney. So it is not mutually exclusive. The jury can find that she did defame Depp with these alleged abuse claims, but then could also find that there were things that were said about her that were defamatory and not true. And it doesn't necessarily mean one cannot happen with the other.
Got it. Okay. I think that the lesson here is, let this be a cautionary tale. Don't live your lives like they did.
I mean,
the whole thing was just a train wreck.
All of it. It really was. Sad all around. Steph, thanks.